Everybody, welcome to PFF's All-Star Tour presented by Prize Picks. I am Trevor Sikkema. Sitting right next to me is the one and only Austin Gayle. We are here to break down everything about the 2022 Shrine Bowl. And for the next week, we're going to be doing this here in Las Vegas. Then we're going to be headed to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. We're going to be talking to all of these players, all these coaches, giving you guys the best highlights of everything. We got day one in the books, Austin.
It's a legitimate tour. Starting in Las Vegas, too, is an aggressive play. It's been a lot of fun to start.
Just for like 4 days in
exactly.
Vegas,
it's
right?
a 2-night town, and we're going to be here for 4 nights. It's going to test some temptations for sure.
This is true. We might be talking about different temptations, but we're not going to be the only ones here at this table talking about the prospects and the coaches and everything like that. We've got Mike Renner here with us as well, Anthony Tresh here as well. They're going to be taking a look at all of these players. They're going to be breaking down what they're seeing, everything like that. But man, today was big interview day for us. We haven't got out onto the practice field here in Las Vegas yet, but it was a great opportunity to get to know a lot of the players here on this East-West Shrine roster. Who's a couple of guys that maybe stood out for you real quick before we break it down a little bit further?
Absolutely. And it's a big reason why we're on the desk, right? We sat through, 20, 30 interviews today?
Yeah, we hit a lot of guys.
It was an aggressive start. But, man, some guys that stood out, Obinna Eze, the TCU offensive tackle that transferred from Memphis. 3 years at Memphis, then a year at TCU. And the reason he transferred was it was a business decision, right? He wants to show that he can do it against top-level competition. This is a guy that did not play football until 2016. Did not play football until 2016, his senior year in high school, and he had offers from Bama, LSU, Florida, but he's actually originally from Nigeria. When he came to the United States, it was to play basketball. He goes to play football, really good, obviously, offers from Bama, offers from Florida, but didn't really, not necessarily understand, but didn't really respect necessarily like the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Floridas, right? And was like, I want to go to the place where I have the best relationship with the coaches and the people that are going to put me in the best position to succeed. That was Memphis for Obinna, and then obviously towards the latter half, going back for his 5th year, taking advantage of like that COVID option. I want to go to the Big 12. He goes to TCU. Has graded really well for PFF. I think that's a guy that is going to stand out. Big, long arm dude that measured here today.
86-inch wingspan. It's nuts. That's like 97th percentile at the combine. Yeah. That's crazy. And then the arm length was there to match as well.
He said he wasn't much of a shooter, though, in basketball. It was all defense, so that's why he pivoted to football. Right?
Well, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, he was probably just a blocks machine, right? I mean, just putting the hands up. Somebody that I really enjoyed sitting down to talk with is Brad Hawkins, the safety from Michigan. Just a super smart dude. Just so ahead of the curve when it comes to where the NFL is going with versatility of defensive backs. They had Mike McDonald, who was with the Baltimore Ravens and is now back in the league as defensive coordinator. And so it was a short time in Michigan, but it is clearly rubbing off very well on Brad Hawkins because he went from just being when we talk about safeties, we think, okay, versatility means that you can play in a 1-high or 2-high system. You can be a free safety one snap, a strong safety in the other. You can play in the deep areas of the field, or you can come down and be more of a robber. But this dude's versatility goes well beyond that. Yeah. He's a nickel defender. He's a nickel linebacker as well. They'll put him in on like dime backer packages as well. Like he was just breaking it down how well he is already understanding these things. And when it comes to the NFL, a lot of guys preach versatility, and they say they're versatile. This guy's got the tape to really be fantastic. Anybody else before we move on?
Well, I was going to add to Brad Hawkins, too. Like this year, I had him on the Tailgate podcast and talked a lot about this role recently. And he said, play a lot more deep safety this year than I played in previous years. And really like that. Like he wants to show that he can do whatever he wants. I think another player that stood out for me was Ryan Stonehouse, the punter from Colorado State.
You and Ryan Stonehouse were vibing.
We were ripping it up
you guys
for like an hour.
Vibing at the desk for like 25 minutes.
So, I mean, Fort Collins, I visited Fort Collins.
We better get good content.
We're going to get
That's
good content. Well, half of it wasn't recorded, but it was very good. It was very good. Ryan Stonehouse, though, what was interesting is PFF grades punters, right? And like a lot of our punter analytics is really respected by NFL teams, more so than kind of the traditional hang time, average punt. And we talked a lot about, the current punter stats are bad. Because like if you're punting from the 20, you're going to have a higher average punt distance than you are if you're consistently punting from the 50-yard line and those things. And he also thinks inside the 20-yard line shouldn't be a stat. It should be only inside the 10 because things that are between the 10 and the 20, he doesn't feel that negatively impacts the offense as much as inside the 10. Like you're not shifting your playbook.
So he was taking away from his own cred.
It was sweet. It was a sweet interview, man. Ryan Stonehouse, man, is legit.
That's what PFF's motto is. Every punt, every punt, every punt.
Exactly.
Right? That's our motto. That's what's on the wall at the facility. No doubt about it. We have two fantastic head coaches here for the Shrine Bowl. Anthony Lynn, who is Anthony Lynn's son. He is the DB's coach for the Ravens. He is coaching the east side. And then Marcus Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Colts, is coaching the west side. And they filled out their coaching staff with just some of the brightest coaching minds that are in the NFL or working to get in the NFL, work their way up and everything. And just that is such a big reason why I love these all-star bowls, is that these guys not only get to prove themselves in new environments, but also I said to one of these prospects, it's kind of like getting the answers to the test before the test, right? Because if you go to an all-star event like this, you are going to, whether you get drafted or don't get drafted, you're going to be ahead of the curve from some of these rookies who did not get that chance. You've already got that NFL lingo down, that NFL tempo, how hands-on they are with you and everything like that. And so when I look down the roster of this fantastic coaching staff, I mean, I think a lot of these guys are going to get a lot better even in this short period of time.
And hearing your interview, which I know we're going to play later with Eric Galco, who's the director of this whole thing for the first year, it's like incredible how he was able to put together the staff and what he was prioritizing from a diversity perspective, not just from racial background, but also coaching background as well. Like, these players at the East-West Shrine Bowl are going to be put in a unique position to legitimately learn from so many different coaching trees. That is obviously a huge advantage. And the other thing, too, that I found from these prospect interviews, right, like, these guys are going through the trenches, man, taking a ton of interviews between media, NFL teams, etc. Like, they're really going through the ringer and understanding like what this is going to be like at the combine, which again, it's like the interview before the interview. The combine is a massive opportunity to get in front of coaches and scouts and those things. You leave a positive impression here, it puts you in a better position for the combine, etc.
And I know that they do a lot of training nowadays for interviews. They didn't used to have this much of an emphasis on it. Now they do, but there's nothing like getting in a room, and I don't say this selfishly because we get great content and we get to meet a lot of these guys and share a lot of these guys with you guys who are watching, but it's great practice for them. You know, not knowing exactly what question's going to come next, maybe being a little bit caught off guard, having things to say, knowing how to spin it certain ways. I mean, I just think that this is such an underrated part of why guys come to events like this.
Yeah, and we were talking to some scouts last night, right? Like, getting around in Vegas, not drinking, of course, but getting around in Vegas and talking to scouts. It's like this
is dry town.
Some of these regional scouts who speak to the likes of head coaches and stuff like that really prioritize these interviews. It's not just a check box, right? Like, they really prioritize who the player is, their willingness to develop, their background and all that stuff. So I don't think it's a joke. Like, you have to go into these interview processes very similar to how you go into the 40-yard dash and how you go on tape and all that stuff. So it's an important piece.
When it comes to the names that have come through the Shrine Bowl, because this event has been around for a long, long time, almost 100 years. I mean, the names that they always boast are Tom Brady, John Elway, like Brett Favre, those kinds of names. But even as of, Lawrence Taylor, right? Like Shannon Sharp as well. But even more recently, right? We've had Shaq Barrett, Joe Tooney, Javon Hargrave, guys who are playing this week. Jimmy Garoppolo is one of them, right? James Robinson, Michael Onwenu. These are players who, as of late, came to the Shrine Bowl, proved their worth, and were really able to make a big impact in the NFL. And again, I think it goes back to you get a little bit ahead of the curve and you get the chance to prove yourself, because especially for the guys that are later round, even mid to late round, day 3 kind of players, your opportunities to make a difference, they're smaller than the guys that get drafted ahead of you. That's just the nature of how it goes. So for you to get that extra step up, I mean, that's why we see some great names on this list who are able to stick around in the NFL.
Every non-punter I talked about the matchups.
You're gonna have to preface so much of every non-punter that I spoke to today.
But every non-punter, right? The prospects that are going toe-to-toe with some of the best prospects in the country, so much of this is the one-on-ones, right? And you speak to these offensive linemen, Joe Tooney, Michael Onwenu, these guys that go to these all-star bowls, get into these one-on-ones, and legitimately elevate their stock. Tom Compton, starting right tackle for the San Francisco 49ers this upcoming weekend, also was an East-West Shrine Bowl guy. So you go into these with these one-on-ones with a legitimate opportunity to show tape that you just didn't see elsewhere. These guys are playing so many different positions. I talked to like 3 offensive linemen who are going to play center, guard, and tackle all throughout this week to give that opportunity to go against top competition in positions they maybe didn't get the chance to play in college.
I'm really looking forward to see, as we kind of get into who we were looking forward to when we get to the practice field, Pierre Strong. He's the running back from South Dakota State University. I'm super excited to get to see him on the practice field because he was the guy for the Jackrabbits over the last couple of years. 3 seasons, he's had over 1,000 yards rushing. This past season had over 1,600 yards. And, man, it just felt like he was the engine of that entire offense all year long. Felt like he saved the best for last this past season. And running back, I mentioned James Robinson, right? Those are guys who can really stand out here. And as we've noticed with running backs, it's more of a trend to take them in that middle rounds, 3rd, 4th round, maybe even some late round guys. but you have just as much of an opportunity as anybody else to make a difference in training camp, to stick on a roster, to go from a practice squad to a rotational role and really make sure that you get your name up there. I mean, Philip Lindsay is another player who has been to the Shrine Bowl, and that's another running back who I think made a big difference. I'm super excited to see him. Who's an offensive guy? Let's go offense, defense here. Who's an offensive guy that you're really looking forward to?
So Obina I brought up at the top, right?
Obina
as the TCU offensive tackle, I think seeing him in these one-on-ones, he has a legitimate opportunity to raise his stock. I think he's currently a top 150 player on PFF's draft board. But a guy that I kind of got sold on in the interview process that I want to go back and watch the tape and watch this week is Keontae Ingram, the running back from USC. He was special in this interview, and a guy that is 210 right now, played the season at 215, but he said he's been all the way up to 240, dude. And this guy wants to be a rugged thumper type of back that can also work from the slot and run routes from the outside. He wants to be versatile, despite not being like a scat back type, right? He kind of said scat back with a negative connotation. He's like, I don't want to be a scat back. I want a guy that comes into the NFL and can legitimately thump through the trenches, thump through between the tackles. So Keontae Ingram, after talking to him, I want to go back and watch some of the tape at USC and really give him an opportunity. You'll see this opportunity he has at the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Gene DeLance, the offensive lineman for the University of Florida, is somebody who, after I got to speak with him, this is why I'm the same spot that you are with him, that Gene DeLance is with me, because I asked him, hey, when scouts ask, what tape should I watch of you that is you as a difference maker that can be a good NFL draft pick? He said, go watch my tape versus Will Anderson. Who says
Without
that?
hesitation.
Who says that? Nobody says that. Nobody says, go watch my tape versus Will Anderson.
Don't turn that on.
Right? Will Anderson's eating people all season long, and he said, look, Will Anderson, and he went on to just praise Will Anderson. He said he's one of the best pass rushers he's ever been against. He's just got the long arm. He's strong. He's explosive, everything. But he said, I think I handled him pretty well. I was able to neutralize a decent amount of the stuff that he really wanted to do well. And he said he was very, very ready for that matchup. And as one of the best pass rushers, not just in the SEC, but in the country, for DeLance to say, hey, go watch my tape against the very best pass rusher that I went up against this year, that means a lot. And I gotta definitely make sure that I'm paying attention to him this week and go back to watch some tape on him.
Treston Ebner, the Baylor running back, was charted with 20 broken tackles on 21 carries against Texas State, and I asked him about that game.
What?
I went and talked back to the graders.
That's
right?
insane.
I saw it, and I was like, this is a typo. There's just no way. So I went and talked back to the graders here at PFF and the people who charted that game, and they're like, we're going to watch it back. It obviously looks aggressive. They watched it back like, I'm not changing anything. This guy could not be tackled. So I brought up that game with Treston. He's like, the coaches on the sideline were like, what is going on? No one can tackle you in that game. He said it's one of the favorite games he played. So I do think that that's another opportunity too, right? When you talk to these guys, what was your favorite game? What was the tape we should turn on?
Right.
We'll find out some stuff like that.
What about a defensive guy? Is there a defensive guy that really stood out to you that you either talked to or just on the list in general that you're looking forward to?
So Bubba Bolden, not going to have an opportunity to watch him here at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He did suffer a shoulder injury that he actually a little bit this season, but he's in the rehab process, so we're not going to be able to see him this week. But I came away really impressed with the presence he had about him, right? And he's another player that comes to this week that really wants to show he can be versatile and show that obviously in the interview process. I was really excited to see him this week, but sitting down and talking with him, obviously not going to get that opportunity this week.
Yeah, Jack Sanborn, the linebacker from Wisconsin, a guy that I'm really looking forward to. And I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him actually earlier in the year. I got to sit down with him and Leo Chanel, the other linebacker at Wisconsin, who they made up one of the best linebacker duos in the country. And I really want to see how Sanborn is in a new environment, right? Because something that is so great about his game, so evident, is that he knows that Wisconsin defense so well, and he has so much trust with the guys around him. I want to see, not just is he a good football player, I already know he's a good football player, but how quickly can he take hold of the middle of that defense, communicate with the rest of the defense, and be able to get guys on the same page, start making different calls when the offense starts to adjust and bring guys in pre-snap motion and things like that. How quickly can he command that defense as a linebacker? I'm really looking forward to seeing how he's able to do that, because that's going to be a big part of what he brings to the next level. And so that's a defensive guy I'm really excited about. What about a sleeper? You got a sleeper?
Ryan Stonehouse? No.
That's your guy.
I'll throw up a sleeper and also a defensive player.
Okay.
Notre Dame defensive tackle Myron Tungavailoa Asamoah with the hyphen there. And he was a guy that is officially going into the draft. He made this clear in the interview. I'm going in as a 3 technique, but he wants to play every position up and down the defensive line this week to show in these one-on-ones what he can really do. And I came away really impressed in the interview. He's a really humble dude, smart guy that is training down in Exos and is putting up insane numbers apparently. So I'm excited to see him this week. I haven't watched a ton of his tape at Notre Dame. I know he's a big Golden Domer. I know Mike Renner's a big fan, so I'm going to have to go back and watch him too.
Jareth Stearns is the guy that I wanted to bring up because I got a chance to talk to him. I know you were talking him up when we were going into the week because when it comes to yards after catch, nobody had more in the entire country. This is the offense, Western Kentucky, with Zach Hitley, the offensive coordinator, and Bailey Zappi, the quarterback, who was breaking NCAA record. Basically every single record, which was just stupid. But the guy who was on the other end of those passes was Jarrett Stearns more often than not, and he had over 1,000 yards after the catch this year. That's insane. He had more than 300 yards after the catch than the second most player in the NCAA. And so I asked him about it. Came into the measurements. He was about 5'7", about 180 pounds. And so he's one of the smaller guys. And I asked him, I was like, what's something that you really want to prove throughout this week and throughout the draft process and everything? He's like, I want to show people that I'm a contested catch wide receiver. And I asked him, I was like, okay, that's very interesting. Do you have a play that that happened this past season? And the second I started asking him about this question, just the biggest smile.
Oh, wow.
He just got the biggest smile on his face. He's like, yeah, I remember. And he broke down for me when he was able to catch a touchdown pass. They were in the red zone. And he said that he was jawing at the guy a little bit afterwards. He went to the sideline. He was kind of yelling at his coaches. He's like, I'm small, but he's little. That's what he said.
I need to say that more often.
That he was jabbing at the guy after this 5'7" guy kind of goes and gets a contested catch touchdown on you. So he's my sleeper. He's the guy that I'm most looking forward to in that category. Anybody else? Any other shout outs before we kind of?
Tough. I mean, I did like Ebner a lot. Myron, I think that there's people we haven't talked to yet that are going to be fun to see here. Alec Lindstrom, the Boston College offensive lineman. He wasn't in the room today, but there are. I think as we progress through the week, there's going to be a lot more that pop up.
Yeah, Kellen Deach is another one from Arizona State. He's one of our highest graded guys here. I got to talk to him pretty early, and he recognized that he's a taller, leaner, more athletic guy. He likes the outside zone rushing schemes and things like that. It really is able to show his strengths, if you will, but getting to see him hopefully doing some power stuff. Of course, not only to see him doing pullers and counters and getting out in space, that's what he does really, really well, but getting to see how he blocks for power, I think is something that I'm looking forward to.
Again, it comes back to just the value of this game, right? The value of this week is to throw them into situations, throw these prospects into situations that they just didn't do on tape. They did not see that. So playing different positions, playing different schemes, going under center for some of these quarterbacks, right? They don't do that a lot in some of these college offenses for sure.
That's huge, no doubt. Guys, if you have listened to the PFF stats that we've been talking about here on this desk, whether it's 20 missed tackles on 21 carries or something like who leads the country in yards after the catch, you can find all of these premium stats over at pff.com with a subscription. You can either get yourself an Edge or an Elite subscription. You can see what the price points are for each. See exactly what you get with all those. It's no better time to get all of the NFL draft stuff, but also it'll bleed over into fantasy football. You'll get a lot of premium content that comes during the NFL season as well. So check it out, pff.com, Edge subscription, Elite subscription. Elite will give you that best of the best. You will never question your investment, and you'll always be able to find exactly what you're looking for if you get yourself an Elite. But both subscriptions, fantastic. Go check them out over at pff.com. Austin teased it a little bit, but we had the opportunity to sit down with the Director of Football Operations and Player Personnel for the Shrine Bowl here, Eric Galco. Let's roll that now. For the Shrine Bowl, the one and only Eric Galco. Eric, how are we feeling? What's the average hours of sleep per night now that we are finally here at Shrine?
We're pretty good. I haven't adjusted yet. I'm from Boston. We're in Vegas. I'm not quite on West Coast time. I'm probably somewhere in Central time zone right now. So it's still 6 East Coast in the morning, West Coast at night. But we're doing well so far.
To you, that's dangerous because I know some people would mean, okay, time change, I'm going to sleep a little bit more. You're just going to stay up the whole time because you're excited about everything. There's a lot to be excited about here for this week. Now, this is your first year in charge of everything that we have going on here at the Shrine Bowl. My first question to you is just how this opportunity came about for you. You know, how did it present itself, and then what's it been like for you as the Director of Football Operations in the first year?
Yeah, before this, I was the Director of Player Personnel at the XFL, worked with Oliver Luck and Doug Willie and that team from 2018 all up until bankruptcy, RIP XFL.
Gone far too soon, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. But then, from April 2020 really until April 2021, I was consulting in the league and became friends with someone named Bob Roller. He's Director of Sports Management at the Shriners Hospital for Children. He and I talked about how they'd pull off a 2021 Shrine Bowl in a pandemic, which unfortunately didn't happen as well. But we shared a lot of the same common ideals about making a best-in-class event. And, really the Shrine Bowl's been around for, this is the 97th year of the Shrine Bowl, longest-standing all-star game by far. And 15, 20 years ago, it was on to NBC and CBS, I think, at the same time. It was the biggest event in the NFL and college offseason, and he had that goal and aspiration to make the Shrine Bowl kind of that same best-in-class event, and I had think the right idea is hopefully to put it in place. So it's been a fun journey so far.
There's so many big names throughout the Shrine Bowl's history. I mean, Brady, Favre, Elway.
Brady is everywhere in this hotel right now. Brady and Brett Favre are literally all over.
Right. Yeah, they're in charge. They're basically they got their hands in the event.
Yeah.
I mean, but you even got guys like Joe Tooney, Javon Hargrave, right? I mean, like Jimmy Garoppolo was at this event. So many different guys every single year that come to the Shrine Bowl. What makes this such a special all-star event? Obviously, not just for the names that we know there, but moving forward this year and beyond, what makes it such a great event?
Well, first off, it's for a great charity and great organization. Shriners Children's Hospital has number of locations, number of hospitals around the country as well. It's a fantastic organization. That's why people like Tom Brady, people like Jimmy Garoppolo, people like Darren Waller, who's speaking to our players this weekend, still think about and resonates with them what the Shriners Hospital does. They get a chance to meet patients and kind of hear what the mission really is. And I think we want to kind of keep the ethos of that for the Shrine Bowl moving forward. But my goal, again, is to have a best-in-class event. I think you do that certainly by having players. I think we have great players here. We'll have great players for the next X amount of years, but making great experience for you guys here as media, getting the access you need, talking to players, getting really good stories and content. For players, making sure that they're getting 8 hours of sleep, which is not common at some all-star games, making sure they have their health and recovery resources. We'll have mental health available for them all week long. They'll get a free access to BetterHelp, which is online therapy. They have Darren Waller speaking to them. We've got a mental performance coach as well. And then making sure they can own a lot of this process as well, right? They know what they're walking into for interviews, owning their own data, owning their own content. And lastly, NFL personnel, making sure they have more interview time with our players than any other all-star event, and a lot of times even the NFL Combine. So trying to make it best in class for all parties is really the goal for this event this year and moving forward.
Now, we've been friends a lot longer than even you've been in charge of the Shrine Bowl, and back when you were on the media side of things, I know we talked about plenty of things at different all-star events and what can make them great. Having that media background, what's it been like kind of taking that into almost a position of power, if you will, now being able to do a lot of things to where the media...
Much more stressful, Trevor. Much more stressful than media time, too.
I'll let you handle it then. I'll stay on this side of things.
It's one thing, and I'm sure you and I talked about it past Shrine Bowls ago, is one of the cool things I think we did, I think NFL teams so far responded well to it, is, hey, why are every all-star game running a 4-3 defense and having 11, 12 personnel? Like, there are 3-4 players, there are 12 personnel guys. So we've split those rosters up, kind of what makes sense on paper, but not something all-star games done in the past as well. So I think that media experience, consulting with teams, all those experiences hopefully gave me a fresh perspective on what an all-star game can be. So it's been fun to kind of use the XFL experience, the NFL experience, the media stuff to try to make it really cool in that event for players, media, NFL personnel, and everybody else.
So far, so good. You get a thumbs up for me so far,
nice.
But I'm not going to give you a pass for the whole week. We'll have to see you.
I have not bought you a drink yet either. So
that is true. So I don't have that box checked yet. We're hoping to get that over the next couple of days.
There's thankfully quite a few spots here in Las Vegas we can get a drink.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be no shortage of those. Something that I think is really cool about this event is just the diversity of the coaching staff here. And you talked about this being such a world-class all-star event for the players, and that is certainly one thing that really stands out to me of how you did that. So take me through the process of getting all of these different assistant coaches here to kind of be all hands on deck, come together and teach these guys here.
The Shrine Bowl for the last 4 or 5 years now has had some of the rising coaches kind of do a step above where their current title is. And we've had good coaches the last couple of years, but really I took a hands-on approach working with Troy Vincent in the league office, multiple NFL GMs, and it was, hey, who are the best young assistants, coordinators, position coaches, assistant position coaches in the NFL right now? How can we get them all together in the East West Shrine Bowl? We've got 2 unbelievable, I've seen their meetings, unbelievable head coaches. Marcus Brady, he's the offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts, runs a Colts offense that he played in the CFL, now he's a coach here with the Colts offensive coordinator. And then Danton Lynn of the Baltimore Ravens, Anthony Lynn's son. He's been coach of the Shrine Bowl, player, coach in the NFL. He works with the Baltimore Ravens defensive backs, known as a pretty good unit. But even their position coaches and coordinators, like Drew Wilkins, also of Baltimore, he's the outside linebacker coach for the Ravens. Terrell Suggs, Matt Juna, all these guys. He's coaching outside linebackers now. So he gets to work with guys like Jeffrey Gunter in a 3-4 scheme, a great player there. I know I saw someone tweet about him earlier today, so hopefully he's a good guy for PFF. But it's been awesome having these like either fringe playoff teams or playoff teams have their assistant coaches be here, get the hands-on experience with the players, but also for these guys to like learn from Danton Lynn and Marcus Brady and Drew Wilkins and so many more. Let's talk about a couple of guys that you're super excited to see. Yeah. Obviously, these guys you've all brought here for a reason. You all think that they can. Children, right. So that's what you were saying kind of before the interview started. But who are a couple of guys that the people out there should really keep their eye on for this? Well, I mentioned Jeffrey Gunter of Coastal Carolina, a really impressive athlete, and he's a guy that'll rise at the NFL Combine of how well he's going to test. But he'll be here in a 3-4 defense. Awesome kid, extremely hard worker. I've talked to him 6-7 times since he signed up for the Shrine Bowl because he's like, what can I do? What do scouts want to see? So laser focused there. I think he'll be a really impressive top 100 pick, especially in the draft process. Jack Jones and Chase Lucas, 2 cornerbacks out of Arizona State. Jack has first-round talent. Chase Lucas, one of the best, if not the best, nickel cornerback prospect in the NFL. They'll be 2 best players here. Kalen Barnes, a cornerback, and Tyquan Thornton of Baylor, both with Tyquan a receiver. Tyquan, 6'4", 4.3 speed, red zone threat. Kalen Barnes, 4.3 speed, press corner, so 2 talented players as well, too. So a lot of talented guys. Those are 5, I think, NFL teams have been most excited to interview and watch on practice at UNLV and Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah, you saying that that they're all your children, and then not being able to basically stop highlighting all of them that we should all care about. You mentioned it right there, and this will be the last question, but you talked about having the opportunity to practice at both UNLV and at Allegiant Stadium. I think that's such a really cool way to highlight everything in football that Las Vegas has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, UNLV is a great facility. We're there for Saturday, Sunday. It's honestly a perfect facility for practice. We've got 2 full fields. We've got a gorgeous new building. UNLV is going to host us there. NFL executives will be up in the balcony. We've got great media access. And then, of course, Monday, Tuesday, game day at Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah.
Pretty nice stadium, pretty new. If you guys have been there
right.
It's pretty good, but gorgeous in there. It's unbelievable. And that'll be all covered with Shrine Bowl stuff, all practicing game long, too. So it's going to be nice to have these guys practicing and playing at an NFL stadium. Again, the only All-Star game that practices and plays at an NFL stadium makes this event hopefully a best-in-class event for everybody involved.
Yeah, best in class for sure. No doubt about it.
That's the word.
I appreciate the time, Eric. Hey, I'm going to hold you to not only that drink, but also you said 8 hours of sleep is standard for the players. I'm going to hold you to that too, because you need as well. We got a lot of things that we're going to get to during this event. I want to make sure that you're awake for all of them.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it all the time, Eric.
Thanks, man. I didn't mention what senior.
Let's take a little bit of a break here from the prospect action here with the Shrine Bowl, and let's talk about some of these games. Let's talk about some over-unders for some player props with our friends at Prize Picks, who is sponsoring the show. They got the fine logo right behind us. So what we're going to do is every single day this week, before the games at least, so actually that's just today and tomorrow, we're going to run through 3 over-unders, and Austin and I are going to give you our picks for the over-unders, and then you're hopefully going to take our sound, wonderful, logical advice, bet it over at prizepicks.com, win yourself some cheddar cheese this weekend. So, you ready for it?
Cheddar cheese this weekend, I'm all in.
You always are. We're not going too far away from the Shrine Bowl because the first guy that we're talking about is a Shrine alum. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. His over-under this weekend, 210.5 passing yards. What are we doing with this?
It's too low, right? I think it's too low, especially for an East-West Shrine Bowl alum.
True.
Jimmy Garoppolo at 210.5. You can see this number if you are betting player props in other places. Probably closer to 230. I think it's way too low for Prize Picks right now. I think there's a ton of value going over 210.5 for Jimmy Garoppolo, especially when the number one reason this thing is low, right, for Prize Picks is the Rams defense is good. It's one of the top-ranked defenses in EPA per play this year. Top 5 over the regular season, number 1 in the postseason. Aaron Donald is a monster. Von Miller has the highest pressure rate of any player in the postseason so far this year. Trent Williams battling an ankle injury. There's a lot of narratives, right, that will drive this number down. But 3.5-point dogs on the road. They're going to have to throw to win this game. They can't just run the football. And even though Jimmy Garoppolo isn't this downfield passer, right, he's not pushing the ball, high average depth of target among other quarterbacks in the NFL, his guys get yards after the catch. And according to Prize Picks, those all show up to the same. So you got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle, all those guys getting yards after the catch for Jimmy G. He's not throwing for 400, but I think he gets over 210.5.
I'm with you. Look, it's Shrine weekend. He's gonna feel
that's
that
true.
power.
I didn't bring that up.
That alumni hood, which that's absolutely not a word. But like he's gonna feel the strength of Shrine weekend. But I just feel like this number is too low. There are too many great offensive weapons for them to get yards after the catch. And really, like, even if you don't think that Jimmy's going to throw it deep down the field very often, he has all these guys that he can get it to, and I think he's going to go over. So we're both going over here. The next one, Jamar Chase, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. 84.5 is the number here, the receiving yards for Jamar Chase. What do you think about this one?
So Jamar Chase was incredible in their game against the Kansas City Chiefs in that win in Cincinnati a few weeks ago, and he won big in one-on-one situations, specifically over Charvarius Ward, who I think still has nightmares from that game. And no team in the NFL, no defense runs a higher percentage of press coverage on passing downs than the Kansas City Chiefs. And no receiver in the NFL has more yards against press coverage than Ja'Marr Chase. It's a perfect matchup for him. 84.5 is a high number, right?
It is.
That
For
is
an
like
over-under, it
baking in a ton of volume. But he's going to get it, right? Like, they're going to have to throw the ball to win this game. They're 7.5-point dogs on the road. I know the Kansas City defense is good. Steve Spagnuolo is going to be cooking up a gem. But if they throw a lot, which I predict them to, and they try and cover this number, that 7.5 borderline win, Ja'Marr Chase is going to have a ton of passing yards. Will the Kansas City Chiefs game plan for him? Yes. Will they be able to actually stop him from under 84.5? I don't think so.
We've got a betting tool over at PFF.com, which you can check out if you have a subscription to the site. It's called Greenline. And Greenline likes the under here for 84.5. And I think the reason is because, like you said, like that's just so much volume.
It is.
You're just, and Ja'Marr Chase, everybody that knows him knows that he is capable of it, but it's just a tough bet. There's so much volume.
You're guaranteeing like 8-9 targets,
so
right?
I'm going to be a good employee, and I'm going to pump up the Greenline tool, and I'm going to say under. We'll differ a little bit here,
I like
and I'll go with the under here. So the last one, Travis Kelce, tight end for Kansas City on the other side of things, 70.5 receiving yards is his over-under.
Former University of Cincinnati grad, so I mean, maybe going against Cincinnati, he tries to play the game a little bit.
Oh, so you think he's going to throw?
He could throw again.
Okay.
No.
You think he's going to like Shane Falco, like shave some points?
Shave some points, shave some yards for PrizePicks.com. Who knows? I do think for Travis Kelce, there are reasons to bet this under, right? Jesse Bates is one of the highest graded players in the NFL. He's going to be hawk in the middle of the field, as we saw against Tennessee. Logan Wilson, former linebacker for Wyoming, has played well over the middle of the field. He had the highest single game coverage grade this past week against Tennessee, but I do think Travis Kelce gets over the number. They're going to be keying in on Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I ultimately think the Kansas City Chiefs know that Joe Burrow and this Bengals team can score with him. They're not going to play slow, control the football. They're going to try and step on throats, and Travis Kelce is going to be a big part of that.
I'm going over. I'm going over as well. So we've got over at the top. We differ between Ja'Marr Chase and we're going over here. I think that just Kelce's going to have too much volume because I think that you're right. Joe Burrow is going to be opening it up against him. I think this is going to be another high-scoring affair like we saw the past week against the Bills, and I think that Travis Kelce is going to be the benefactor of that. Guys, head on over to PrizePicks.com. Check out all of these prop bets, these over-unders. You can put your own bets down there. And if you're signing up and you use the promo code PFF, you can deposit at least $20. You will get yourself a free PFF subscription. So what I just said, getting to be able to use the Greenline tool and everything like that, you get a ton of different draft things, fantasy football things, and a lot of great content during the NFL season as well. So head on over to PrizePicks, sign up for it. You either agree with me and be right, disagree with me, and be wrong. You know, that's normally how it works, but check it out over at PrizePicks.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be right below in the description. So final thoughts before we get out of here. Day one of the Shrine Bowl. We've got practices coming up over the next 2 days. Next couple practices are at UNLV before they head to Allegiant Stadium on Monday, which I'm really looking forward to.
So far, right, we only have the interviews in the books, and I think it's been really exciting to talk to these guys about what they're going to go through this week. It's time to turn on the tape. I'm excited to see these guys in the one-on-ones, especially at UNLV. Then we're going to get some opportunities at Allegiant Stadium. It's going to be a massive opportunity for a lot of guys that obviously deserve some more spotlight.
Yeah, putting on the pads, baby. I'm excited for it. We've got you totally covered. Your wall-to-wall coverage at the 2020 Shrine Bowl. That's Austin Gayle. I'm Trevor Sikkema. We will see you guys tomorrow as we recap day one of Shrine Bowl practices.